Cameron Batiste with the National Weather Service. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We are heading into a very hot stretch over the next several days. Would you classify this as a heat wave when we're talking 100 to 102 degrees for this time in August?
So a heat wave is defined by NOAA as a period of abnormally warm temperatures, generally for 2 or more days. So by that definition, we would count this as a heat wave since we are expecting temperatures to be in the upper 90s to even the low 100s throughout the week this week.
Okay, now here in Southeast Texas, across the Houston area, we know what the feels like temperature can be. Can you use the feels like or the heat index when talking about a heat wave?
Not necessarily. The official definition counts it as the air temperature being above normal. So as far as the heat index goes, we do not count that, but we do use that as far as heat advisories go, which we are looking at some potentially for the end of this week.
Oh, that was my follow-up question. Do you think that we will have a heat advisory issued this week?
I will be more surprised if we don't have one Thursday and Friday, because that looks to be the most definite days we'll see heat index values above 108 degrees Fahrenheit. That is our local definition for a heat advisory, for at least for us. So definitely Thursday, Friday, and potentially even Saturday as well. But even earlier in the week, we'll be on the borderline of that of those conditions.
Okay, now comparing a heat advisory to, let's say, an excessive heat warning, what would make you at the National Weather Service issue an excessive heat warning?
So, for our heat advisory, our criteria is heat index values of 108 degrees Fahrenheit or greater for heat index. And then for an excessive heat warning, that would be a heat index values of 113 degrees or more. And we actually may be a bit close to that in some areas for Thursday and Friday. That remains to be seen, but definitely expect at least a heat advisory and potentially on the border of a excessive heat warning in some locations.
Okay, so far this summer, we have had one triple-digit day, one 100-degree day on July 1st, taken at the big airport. Now, in comparison on average of what we typically see during the summer, how are we doing this year?
Compared to the last summer, we're actually doing pretty well.
Yeah.
You know, this time last year we had about 15 days or so by now of 100-degree temperatures or greater for the city of Houston, and only having one so far. I mean, that's sitting pretty compared to what we usually see this time of year.
Okay. All right, let's get back to the heat wave. So, you know, if this does or does not constitute, let's say, a heat wave for our 3 or 4 day stretch of triple digits or higher, what would across our area? Why would we? When would you say, okay, this is a heat wave? How does a heat wave here across Southeast Texas typically form? And, you know, can you speak on the effects that it can either have on your body or even to infrastructure across the area?
Sure thing. So I would say this does count as a heat wave. Seeing triple-digit temperatures isn't exactly normal. Our normal temperature for the city of Houston is 96 degrees, and we're going to be well above that for the next several days. As far as the impacts that can cause, that has big impacts on our bodies. We did mention the heat index earlier. That is taken in the shade, so even outside in direct sunlight, it's going to be even higher than that. So it's going to be very important to know the signs of heat-related illnesses for those especially outside for extended periods of time. That is heat stroke and heat exhaustion. It's going to be important to check in on your vulnerable and elderly population, make sure they're staying safe from the heat. Definitely staying hydrated. You can easily become dehydrated as we have excessive humidity down here with the proximity to the Gulf of Mexico. It's going to be very important to stay hydrated. And we do know that when it's hot outside, we got to stay cool inside, right? So
Oh, yeah.
air conditioners will be going. So that can cause a strain on the power grid. And so hopefully things are good as far as that goes.
Yeah, and it's created by high pressure. You know, talk about an area of high pressure and a heat dome and how that can create, you know, these mini or heat waves across the area.
Yeah. So we do have a upper area of high pressure over us right now. It will be gradually expanding and moving further east. And as it happens, we just have this area of high pressure that's going to be sinking all that hot air down onto us. So we have all that sinking air, all that air heats up as it moves closer to the surface, and we see well above normal temperatures for the Southeast Texas.
All right, and we were talking about averages a little bit heading into this interview. You know, a lot of times when we talk about the climate or climatology, we're looking at a 30-year plus average. You know, what are y'all looking at when you're talking about the average for this time of the year, the normal? You know, what is our temperature that we should be for this time of the year?
For this time of the year, for the city of Houston, we should be right around 96 degrees for the daytime. And over the last 30-year period that we used before the current one we're using, that temperature actually has gone up.
Yeah. Okay. We can feel it. Okay.
Yeah.
Cameron Batiste from the National Weather Service, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
So when we're talking about a heat wave, what causes a heat wave? Well, first of all, a heat wave is defined as 2 or more days of abnormally hot weather. And typically, it's all thanks to an area of high pressure. Think high pressure lives in the upper levels of the atmosphere. High pressure, as it continues to grow and expand, it becomes a heat dome. So it basically blocks out the chance for rain, which that, of course, would cool us down. It creates calm winds, that sinking air from an area of high pressure that can reduce your air quality, and it can also cause dangerous heat, and of course here across Southeast Texas, dangerous humidity. Both of those combined are what can create a heat wave from that heat dome. So now let's focus in on an urban heat island. What happens is the situation is even worse over highly populated cities. And that's because throughout the day, with clear skies and abundance of sunshine, thanks to that area of high pressure, you heat up from the sunshine, of course, throughout the day. Well, areas that have, let's say, more grass, trees, shrubs to help absorb some of that heat instead of, let's say, concrete, because concrete heats up so much faster and it also holds that heat longer. So the difference is in areas that have a lot more grass and trees, they're going to cool down at night. So this is called radiational cooling. And that's, of course, when the heat is able to escape the area. And thanks to areas that are a lot more grassy, that have higher tree densities, those areas cool down faster overnight. Let's say in these highly populated cities, that's where concrete traps the heat and it's not able to escape. So it holds the heat even longer. So in areas that experience this, we call it an urban heat island because of the population and because of the city size, but it is all thanks to an area of high pressure, which is that heat dome, which creates a heat wave.